Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
First, I want to welcome to the program author Joe Maeder, Opposites Attack, a novel inspired by true events. Joe, thanks for calling.
Hi, Neil. It's very nice to be on the show here.
Well, absolutely.
I'm a former radio person, so I get to use my radio voice.
I'm not trained in radio. I just decided to start my own show, and it started out just as an education show. Now I interview celebrities and entertainers and authors, and I've had over 1,000 interviews, I think, in 4 years. More than that, I don't know. Eric has to total that up. An amazing amount, but I'm excited to talk to you, and I think ultimately, when you think about being at the Miami Book Fair, how does it feel to be here? And I guess just enjoy the whole atmosphere.
There's so many really famous authors here. I kind of feel like plankton at times. It's like I'm standing in line to get food. Oh, there's Walter Mosley. Oh, there's Dave Barry. It's pretty amazing. So it's really a thrill. It's this huge, huge thrill and honor. And I'm loving it because I'm from Miami, and it's great to come back.
Well, absolutely, Eric, and it's something that the Miami Book Fair is just such a fantastic atmosphere and a place that we visited the first year, and we just had so much fun, and we can't wait to finally go back next year, right, Eric?
I know it's gonna be a blast. It's a hike to get us there with all the hosts and everybody else. It's a tough job. It's like wrangling cats.
Well, yeah, it's been great, and it's been raining a lot the last few days. So hopefully it will clear up and for the rest of the weekend. But Miami has changed so much, and from the last time I was here, I was at the book fair in 2009 when I Married My Mother came out. That was my memoir about my mom, obviously, and it just, this whole cityscape has completely changed. If it wasn't for the Freedom Tower, I wouldn't know where I was. It has changed that much in 4 years.
Wow, where did you relocate to?
Well, I grew up in Miami, and I was on the radio here. And then I went to New York City for about 20 years, and then I ended up in Greensboro, North Carolina, to care for my mom at the end of her life. And that's when I Married My Mother came out of. I was the fish out of water in that situation. Thought I'd be right back to New York, but I'm still there 10 years later. She passed away in 2006. I like it. I really like it there.
Wow, it's got to be a lot different than Miami.
Yeah. But anyway, it's nice to get away. It really is nice to get away. In fact, I have to regularly because it is a little slow compared to New York and Miami there.
Well, absolutely. Let's go to Opposites Attack. Tell us specifically why you wrote that book.
Well, Opposites Attack is a novel about a young woman named Alyce, who flew 4,000 miles to learn French, sophistication, and win back her true love, and enter the très different and exasperating Jean-Luc, who is a writer who does not like Americans at all, and they don't like each other on site. But, of course, that changes. So it's will opposites attract or attack? And I was thinking about that expression, and it's one I use often because very often you say, oh, opposites attract. But then at some point, that difference is, it turns in on itself, it seems, in a lot of couples. I wanted to explore that among a whole bunch of other things that I get into in the back of the book, where I talk about the story behind the story. It covers the subject of baby daddies and baby mamas, and how much can somebody really change? And artists, are they really entitled to be so exasperating and eccentric? Should you just accept it and that they'll never be normal and love them for that? Or are they just, can you really excuse their behavior? So all that's wrapped into the book.
Fantastic, absolutely. And it's something where when you think about relationships and you think about changing for other people and developing, it always brings back memories for lots of people, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I think we all have all experienced that. How much is me? How much is them? How much do you put up with? How much do you, choosing your battles? It's a lot about that, and what is really important in the end is somebody who really understands you and appreciates you for who you are, and is going to be supportive. But you're not looking for a pet either; they're a person, You have to work out all of these nuances and differences. It's a work in progress usually in relationships.
Very cool.
Oh, it truly is, isn't it, Eric?
Yeah, it really is. Now, Joe, I was excuse me, I was reading the cover here while you and Neil were chatting, and it takes place in France or flies 4,000 miles to learn French. Do you speak French yourself, or was this just kind of a backdrop for the story?
Well, it takes place in the south of France in an area called the Provence d'Azur, where the Côte d'Azur and Provence sort of overlap. And in 2001, I went over there to a total immersion school. I wanted to stay a month, but I could only stay 2 weeks. I went in talking like a 1-year-old and left talking like I was 2. So I really didn't get command of the French language, but I kept being drawn to this one man who was there as a student. He was American, so he spoke English, and somebody I could talk to. And at some point, I realized that one of the instructors was very good friends with this man, and she didn't seem to like my coming around. And I thought, maybe this is one of those same time next year things, because he would come back every year to the school. And that got my imagination going about all of the things that could happen to the people who live there and the students who come in and out of their lives for weeks and sometimes months at a time. It was like a cruise ship for smart people. So that's where it all started from, and I wrote the book and finished it in 2001, the first version of it, but 9/11 had happened. There was a big French backlash. Remember freedom fries, all that?
Yeah.
And, I just had to put it away, and over the years I've gone back to it because the characters just would not leave me alone. And I'm happy to say that it marinated just the right amount of time. So now it's out there, and people seem to really be loving it. They want to get on a plane to France when they finish it or take a cooking class. There's a lot about food in it, and I'm working on recipes. I've put a few recipes up on my blog, and I might turn it into a book at some point. But it's, there's a lot about food.
Very cool.
When you think about France, what is your favorite thing about France, Joe?
Well, I think what I liked about that particular town that I went to, it was called Hyères. It's about 2 hours south of Nice. It was the population was about 60,000, so it wasn't a huge city, but it wasn't super small, and I could walk to school, and it was just wonderful to. I didn't feel like a tourist. I felt like I was staying with a host family. I felt safe. And yet I would get up every day, go to school, be done at noon. I'd have the afternoons, evenings free. It was a great way to travel, especially if you're single. It's a wonderful way to travel. So you feel like you're seeing it like a native. And I just love the whole sensibility that they have in France, and the language is beautiful, even when it sounds like they're coughing up a hairball, from the back of the throat. It's just a gorgeous language. And the food was amazing, and it was a beautiful setting. It was enchanting in every way.
I can imagine. I myself, I took 5 years of French and was in a French Honor Society. Almost did an exchange program years ago, but now I can't remember a sentence to save my life. It's kind of sad.
I know this one. Tout nouveau, tout beau. What is new is good. So that gets Alyce has all kinds of mishaps. She really was one of the worst students in the history of the school. But she hangs in, and she transforms in some wonderful ways, as does Jean-Luc. And it's and there are of course all these other things that happen and obstacles and all that. But it's just a nice little armchair travel romance book that gives you a lot to think about, and at least that's what people are saying who have read it. It's not as fluffy as it may seem on the surface.
And what do you love most about cooking, especially when you have recipes in this and stuff like that, Joe?
Well, I love to experiment. I love to cook for other people. And in the book, one of the characters kills a wild boar in self-defense and then has a big feast. So I said, let me try this. So first I looked into actually killing a wild boar. Now, these boars, or sometimes they're called feral swine, warthogs, but they are a real menace in America and in other countries as well. They destroy property. They can be very dangerous. They have been known to kill people, and they're pretty good to eat. And they need, people need to be eating more wild boar, if you ask me. So I looked into it, and there was a place where I could do it, a couple hours from me, for a couple $100, but there was no guarantee that I would actually get the thing. And then someone said, you have to be careful about things you kill, and they can have salmonella, they can have hepatitis E, all this other stuff. You better get it on the internet. So I did. I found it on the internet. A site called d'Artagnan.com, owned by a French woman, and it's all USDA inspected. And it was wonderful. I had about over 20 people. I made a wild boar daube, D-A-U-B-E, and it was wonderful. It was a great experience, and it was kind of like, well, we can't travel to France, but we'll just sort of pretend we're in France. So it was great, and I've tried some of the other recipes as well. It's everybody loves to get into food. It's either as an eater or a cooker.
Most definitely. And Eric, do you like to cook?
I do. It's just finding time to do it. That's the tough one.
What is your favorite thing to cook?
Well, even though my background is German and Polish, my favorite type of food is Italian. So I enjoy having lasagna and pastas and things like that.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So, are you excited to be meeting some of your fans of your book and stuff, and of your work being at?
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. But it's also fun to meet the other authors. There's so many, and many are appearing at the same time. So I say, well, is it worse to walk in and just stay 20 minutes and leave, or to miss them completely? So far I've been doing the kind of going in and out. So as long as you get a little taste, I think that's good.
Do you have another book in the works that you can maybe tell us a little bit about, or is
well,
that?
Actually, I have another novel, and inspired by my life as a DJ. I was a disc jockey for a long time in Miami and in New York, and it's about 1 year in the life of this female New York DJ, and all these big changes and crises that happen in this 1 year. I think will give people a really good taste of what it's like to be in the radio business.
Absolutely. And question also, Joe, about radio, because I'm I guess a broadcast journalist now. in my development in 4 years, radio people are a different breed, aren't we, Joe? We are in certain aspects.
I think you were right about that. Absolutely. And once it's that you could take the DJ out of the air, you can't take the air out of the DJ. Once you're a radio person, you're always a radio person.
As a talk show host, you can't stop being a talk show host. And it's kind of funny, Joe, you and I probably, when we're in conversations with people, we allow them to talk a lot, and we don't want to talk as much, especially when you were doing the DJ thing as a full-time gig, right? You go out with your friends or different things, you're like, okay, I'm just going to listen to them. I've talked too much already being the DJ.
Yeah, well, also you're listening to music. Like I used to be crazy about music and listen to everything, and now I listen to audiobooks. That's what I listen to in the car.
Well, Eric wears both hats. He's a talk show host and a DJ. He'll pull the DJ thing when we take our break. So
double duty today, double duty.
Do you see the same thing, Eric, in what Joe was talking about?
Yeah, definitely. When I'm on the air, I seem to talk more, but when I'm off the air, I seem to talk less and let more people speak. And it's interesting. But I what Joe was saying about the audiobooks and stuff, music really is my passion in my life, and I love it. And I do find myself trying to do more opportunities with audio, like the ebooks and different things like that to experiment. It's more fun. I enjoy it.
Oh, I love the audiobooks. I love them.
They're great. Plus, it
also keeps me from arguing with myself.
Yeah.
In the car, and even though I always win those arguments, it's just like a tape loop. Like when I turn them off, just get lost in another world.
Well, the good part too, I always seem when you're reading and you're kind of tired, especially if you're laying in bed and you kind of lose your spot and you find yourself reading the same page over and over a couple nights in a row sometimes. I seem to not have to do that any longer with audiobooks, so it's nice.
I do find that fiction books are sometimes harder to follow, but it really a lot depends on the reader.
Yeah, that too, definitely.
Yeah.
And we could definitely have to have you on the show, Joe. If your book's out already, we'll try to set this up. Come on and talk about the radio book, because I'll have fun with that. Especially that'll be a very. So is it already out?
No. It's going to be out next year sometime.
Next year sometime.
I'm not sure exact date yet.
You're in that deadline period, right? Especially the end of the year is really busy when you're a writer.
Yeah. I've got so many books in me. I feel like Octomom. They just I want them to just get out and on their way. So it just they don't leave me. So.
All right. Well, fantastic. You're invited back. So you remember, I'll try to friend you on Facebook, and I already tweeted you out. So when you just kind of follow my Twitter feed, you'll know, and you'll say, hey, my book's out, Neil. Just tweet me out. I'll get in touch with your publicist or publisher, and we'll get you back on the show. So where can we find information on you, Joe? Purchase your book and learn more about you.
Well, my website's just joemaeder.com, JOMAEDER.com, and I'm on Facebook, too. You can find me there. And that's a good place to start. And Twitter. I'm on Twitter, too. Yep.
I already tweeted you out thanking you for coming on the show. So I'm a multitasker. As I learned, it's not multitasking, Joe. It's switching.
Okay.
No one's multitasking. They only switch. That was Darren Hardy taught me that at one of these entrepreneurial trainings. Well, Joe, thanks for calling, and enjoy the book fair and enjoy all the fun atmosphere.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.